Anime begins with our hero, who is suffering a lot in front of some nobles who laugh at his situation, and the noble in question says he will give him a gift telling him to cast a spell before his death. But the spell he casts is ridiculously weak and slow, not causing the slightest damage to the noble, so everyone starts laughing at the boy's situation, so that Royal Goon fires his spell to burn the boy to death, but instead of feeling despair. And anger, our hero was enjoying the torment because he always desired to have this type of power, but with such a heavy wish he perished into the air and then woke up in another world. He see lots of girls, but bro felt threatened and thought he should defend himself and made a spectacular show of overpower. He was born as the 7th prince of the Salem Kingdom, Prince Lloyd, so the whole capital celebrate, while the maids in charge of him felt their lives flashing out. Then a few years passed out and Lloyd grows up. The kingdom was peaceful and prosperous, but the maids were having a hard time finding their little troublemaker. He looks like a girl. But Lloyd told the old man to stay silent and pretend they never saw him. The old dude wanted to take Lloyd for hunting, but he had already slipped out of there. But one of them asked if it was important to gain connection with the youngest, who has the smallest chance of getting the crown. But the old man told his underling that Lloyd is a magic prodigy who started learning spells right after his birth, and even refused to get nursing from his mother like a true gentleman. Even he blast a fire when he was born. They thought Lloyd is a father of sorcery, but in reality he was just a commoner who was reborn as the 7th prince. He has his memories from his previous life, so he hunt to get knowledge about magic. But just as he picked his poison, his maid waifu found him and took his book. She's Silpha, and she's not just a caretaker, but she's also a teacher for Lloyd. She teaches the guy swordsmanship. And even as a kid, Lloyd was keeping up with her. Lloyd thought it's useless since he's not in the run for succession, but as a royalty, Silpha told him it's his duty as a royal to be good with a sword as well. So Lloyd thought of showing off to get out of her lessons with precision. He defends against Silpha with the same move that made her happy. But Lloyd knew Silpha was holding back quite a bit, and more so Lloyd was using control-type magic to direct the same attack she threw at him, which means cheating. But Silpha's swordsmanship was truly splendid, and he can copy her moves, but can't copy a grown-up body's advantages, so he decided to try out something to cheat. He grew the sword size, made his arm stronger, and finally levitated himself for height. He jumps in again and started even matching up to her. Both round out equally, and Lloyd knew if Silpha fight her mirror image, just a bit of improvised attack should be enough to catch her. But Silpha knew all along he was cheating and beats him with a smooth killer move down to the ground. She knew Lloyd used magic to fill in the gap, which makes her even more happy. She noticed Lloyd used 2 spells at once, a difficult task even for court mages, so Lloyd decided not to tell her that he was using used invisible magic to pass through the guards, and apparently the door was sealed by the 10 most powerful mages. But Lloyd broke the seal like it was a kid's play for him, and he saw his heaven in front of him and dives into the books of magic. But the book demon just woke up to intimidate Lloyd. Thinking he's a kid, he tries to lure Lloyd to unseal him, and in return he promised to give out golds. But Lloyd saw through his empty promises that gold were of such low quality. Besides, Lloyd planned to replace the seal and never planned to release him in the first place. So Demon threw in ancient magic knowledge as well now that is called the perfect bribe for a magic junkie, and now Lloyd unsealed the demon with the magic key, and after coming out of that book he attacked Lloyd instantly to get rid of the nuisance. But the kid had already made a barrier, so Demon Grimoire tried to attack him again and again, and threw fire at him one after another, but it had no effect at all. Lloyd had analyzed the properties of that magic and tried it out. It burned down his finger, and even though it was painful, it made him excited to try out more magic. Their demon made double head to double his power. He synchronized his 2 spells using at once with many formula and flow of mana. He gets excited, he wants to learn more magic from him, so Grimoire tried to run out. But the barrier had already been deployed because they were under the royal castle. Grimoire was trapped, and Lloyd created many other barriers and cast a complete annihilation spell, so that took care of the demon. But he survived somehow, so Lloyd first restored the whole underground library in a flash, and Grimoire survived, because demons can't die by magic. So Lloyd was curious, but Grimoire knew he has power of a god. So he pledged his loyalty to Lloyd, but his appearance was a problem, so Grimoire changed it to a cute little goat to charm Lloyd, and he told Grimoire to stick close to him, and while doing so he feels the bottomless pit of mana Lloyd possesses, so messing with him is out of the question. But then his second brother comes to the library to meet Lloyd, so Lloyd tells Grimoire to hide, and there Albert walks, and he invited Lloyd to a shooting ground and used fire spell to shoot the targets. Everyone was impressed by his precision, and that's why Albert was expected to be the next candidate for King's throne. So now it's Lloyd's turn to shine, but he wants to hide his powers to avoid power struggles, so he used a fire, then rotated it in speed and hits the target barely with a curve spell, and it's much harder than normal spell, and no one thought Lloyd hit all of the target, but Lloyd doesn't care about the criticism. But then Albert goes off. After that he got a wild idea to use Grimoire and his double incantation to mix human and demon spell, and Grimoire was freaking out because this magic freak is about to pull something impossible again. He absorbed Grimoire, which was impossible from the start. He syncs up with Grimoire, and there he tries to synchronize his magic with Lloyd. But when Grimoire saw the terrifically huge calculated space of incantation, demon got his eyes ball out, and Lloyd manipulated and exchanged his mouth with Grimoire. It was the way to recite two types of spell, and the huge chuck of energy started get submerged into one. A demon himself was getting scared by the little monster in human skin. And there Lloyd got a success. Lloyd got the urge to shoot the spell, so he shoots it into the sky, and while he makes that miracle, followers of Albert asks him why he's getting along with Lloyd. They thinks he's useless, but Albert knew Lloyd hit his target fair and square, so getting Lloyd on his side will be helpful. But then suddenly Lloyd made a hole in reality itself. It was a big mess up, so he took back his spell immediately. He is truly a monster. So the next day the hole was featured in the newspaper, and no one had a clue who did it, but Lloyd noticed the rank adventurer and the news of them clearing dungeons, so Kid thought of going to one. For that he created a replica from Akron with a perfect body. But it's still hard to escape Sylpha's eyes. This one time Sylpha came to Lloyd and noticed he grew 7 mm tall. She thinks about something else. She has waifu eye for Lloyd, but Lloyd had a plan and escaped the next day. He had Grimoire possessed that body and could talk through telepathy. Lloyd separated and merged Grimoire's souls to that copy, and Grimoire could see Lloyd with one eye, and he has to keep a perfect act around her. But suddenly he realized he has control over this body. But there Lloyd tells him he's glad that he got Grimoire. As is familiar, those words made the demon cry, but he acts as if nothing happened. So Lloyd left the castle, but didn't knew where dungeon was, and there he saw a bubblegum girl was fighting with monsters. Her power was kicking the heck out of her opponent. And Lloyd knew there are some foreign countries that uses Kai instead of mana throughout their body, and the girl knew Lloyd was watching and called him out. Lloyd wants to talk, but Grimoire reminds him he's the 7th prince of Salem Kingdom. Getting no response, Tao thought it's an enemy, but when she saw the guy she falls flat. Lloyd created a mix imitation of his, and Albert gets young. She's 18 and she had a hard time finding a man, but now her springtime has come to end with this cutie. And Lloyd still had intention of getting to the dungeon, so as a rank adventurer, he takes him there. She tries to impress Lloyd, but he was busy snatching up loots. Then moving ahead, Lloyd asks Tao about Kai attacks, and it gets into a nice talk. So Tao tells him that Kai is a sort of breathing technique, and it gives a destructive powers to the user. But there Lloyd was giving it a shot, and Tao was trying to impress the guy, but she noticed Lloyd was breathing heavily and his lungs get out. Lloyd imitated Kai training just by listening, and Tao freaked out, but Lloyd felt the surge of new power in him, so Tao offers a helping hand to Lloyd to learn Kai breathing. His smiling face makes her heart flatter. And in the dungeon, our duo cleared the dungeon boss, and now they could get the treasure. And Lloyd learns that chest quest could only open when the dungeon boss is beaten. There he was getting used to the Kai breathing, and Tao felt like she hit the jackpot for a life partner. But when she tried to open the box, a trap got activated. Lloyd saved Tao in instant time, but when they defeated the boss, a hidden boss appeared, a Lick. But at the same time, Silpha came to Lloyd, and now Grim is about to have a rough time, but Lloyd was in the dungeon preparing to fight off that Lick. But Tao tells Lloyd not to worry and just leave. She sends Lloyd flying away from there to save his life. Tao was confused because a low-level dungeon shouldn't have an S-rank boss, because even a rank adventurers could barely defeat it, so she wants to buy some time so Lloyd can make it out alive. Bro was flying outside wondering why Tao sent him out. He wanted to learn more about Kai from her, so he used his shield to stop himself on his way. He asks Grim if he should return back or not, but Grim was in trouble and tells to Lloyd to get back home quickly, but Tao was fighting to death with that Lick. She knew she couldn't win, and their Lick spoke up. He knew Tao was using Kai. Because he ate a few people like her, that was enough to make her go nuts. But Lick was more surprised by Lloyd because he had saved Tao from his attack. Lloyd was a peculiar case because he learned Kai techniques from her when other people considered Kai to be low-level techniques. Lloyd learned it with enthusiasm, so she again gains confidence by believing on her Kai martial arts. Like Lloyd did, she cracked open the light's barrier with Kai Blast. But she reached her limit with that. It was the end of her, and Lick thinks his little finger has more power than her. All out she attack. But no worries, Lloyd stepped in right on time and saved Toe from blades. He was on fire to have a bombing fight. It was written all over his face, and he used Kai breathing. Suddenly Lloyd started to mix his Kai and magic together. While the Lick kept attacking him, he takes a deeper breath to use more air for his Kai, but the barrier was getting in his way. So he shattered it. Lick thought he did it, but Lloyd just wants to get more air for himself to use Kai and magic combined. He molded the two different powers into one, and after a success he attacks and cuts through the Lick's magic blade. So for the second time he makes it thinner to extend its range and keeps up the attack with it. Lloyd was enjoying all of the moment while Lick was getting overpowered by Lloyd. Slowly Lloyd was getting his blades thinner and thinner, and Lick made a barrier, yet it cuts him right through it. With it the boss was beat. But the treasure they got was Junkie Knife as a reward. But the dungeon started to break down now that the boss is gone, so Lloyd got an idea. He figured out the chest was the core of dungeon, which absorbed magic from magic item of adventurer who fails, and when dungeon gets beaten it offers a magic item to save the core to run away and collect magic power again to grow back. So Lloyd managed to get a piece of its core outside, and the dungeon shrunk into the ground for the time being. There Toa was thinking Lloyd used Kai in fight because that Lick was mocking her, but Lloyd crushed her hopes because he thought it's fun there. He remembers about Grim and took off, and Tao lost the chance to ask for his contact. Then he gets back to the castle and saw Grim was beaten like a punching bag by Silpha. Grim obviously didn't know swordsmanship, and Silpha thought Lloyd forgot swordsmanship, so she goes hard to teach him from square one. And this was the result. His pride as a demon was crushed. Poor Grim. But after he cried his heart out, Lloyd showed him that dagger. He knew it was a treasure in disguise. He cut the enchantment done by Mage Master. It was a boost powers. The enchantment was infused with mana essence, so Lloyd analyzed the properties of the essence and saw it takes 3 ingredients to make it. The last was made from Harati, made from monster core, but their dungeon core could come in handy. Then for the next 2 ingredients Lloyd goes to his father and asks for a bag of silver coin. King surely loves Lloyd, and he mixed the silver. Then he did tough training with Silpha. Lloyd could get oil if he defeats Silpha, but still he was lost in the end. With this Lloyd lost his chance, but surprisingly Silpha gave him the oil even though she won. Because the other day she was sad that Lloyd performed so badly, but now she's happy that he's back to his full strength again. So Silpha thought Lloyd would become an excellent knight in the future. There Lloyd slips out, and now all the ingredients are mixed. But for the weapons he asked Albert for some spare weapons. He's a doting brother, so he asked his knights to give up all of their weapons on their hand. They can't disobey, so the weapons were piled up. One knight was sad. because he just bought a new sword, and now he has to give it up. They didn't believe they would get their weapons back, because enchanting is hard, so Grim was cheering up Lloyd, and he started making the enchantments. He was on full raging mode, but one wrong move and the weapons gets broken, so they tried many times and crushed many swords in their attempt, and at the end he made a few successful cases and told Albert that out of 120 he created 70 successful enchanted swords. He actually had 80 success, but Lloyd tried to enchant double layer and lost those 10 swords. A top grade enchanter has a 10% success rate of enchantment, and Lloyd was even beyond that. A knight didn't believe in Lloyd that he enchanted his sword, but the moment he puts his sword in his sheath, that sheath got sliced in two. Albert's sword also survived the test, and Lloyd wanted to see his mana enchanted weapons at work, so Albert thought of going for some monster hunting with Lloyd, and Silpha joins Albert to go for a monster hunting. Let Silpha accompany them, for which she was grateful to him. Albert knew Silpha is Lloyd's teacher and bodyguard, so he guessed Silpha might miss him, and Albert was right by seeing Silpha that happy, so he asked Silpha if she has feelings for Lloyd. And Silpha warned Albert for his words, but there she sensed there's an ambush planned by monsters, and Lloyd already knew that Kai breathing it makes a search area where he could sense anything. Then their knights were slashing those monsters like butter with the enchanted swords. It was so sharp even knights got scared, and Albert started praising Lord Lyd for his good work, and told everyone that they were wrong judging Lloyd for his age, but Silpha already beat mostly everyone on her own. Then one of the monster targets the carriage, and Ta dropped in and kicked the monster off. She got here as she sensed a hot guy here, so Lloyd was trying to hide his identity, but Ta was sure she heard Albert's voice from the back. She saw some resemblance of Albert and Lloyd, but Silpha wanted Ta to make some distance from Lloyd, and there the waifu begins to get angry at each other, so Albert puts out the fire between them, and he lets Ta join them because she could sense monster more clearly, and after that she learned he's the prince and apologized for rudeness. But she was still searching for the hot guy she sensed, and the guy was hiding from her. He entered his tent and saw that Silpha was changing in his tent outside, and the knight started to enjoy the cat fight. Since Silpha is only half dressed there, Albert tells Lloyd that Silpha has changed since she started teaching him, and their knight were still enjoying the cat fight, and Albert knew and tells to Lloyd that Silpha is in love with him, but still a friendly advice from him. Albert warns Lloyd of relationship with women from personal experience. Then the girls saw the hungry guys were gawking at them, so they beats them up first. Then Silpha got dressed, and Tao tells them she was here to renovate the shrine, so Silpha wants her to get lost and do some work, but Lloyd and Silpha sense something, and a monster attacked them. It was a bear wolf, so Lloyd steps to the very back, and the wolf starts his attack, but their grimoire was thinking something while others were fighting with that wolf. There Albert used his magic sword and defeated the wolf. He was amazed with the power output, because even his sword was enchanted by Lloyd had enchanted some extra spells in his sword. But their grimoire was sure he knew that a demon was sealed in that shrine. Then suddenly that half-cooked wolf got back up again like a zombie, and the reason was actually resting in his mouth. It was a demon who wants to mess around because he got free from that shrine after many years. He called for a monster horde to attack them. Knights slash them up, but they can't die and regenerates easily now. That was pain for sure. And Gore tells Lloyd that demon was controlling them, so Lloyd asked Gore about it, and he tells him that the demon is transmuting his mana to control them, and more so he supplies his mana to let them regenerate, so Lloyd's intention were clear. He want to learn it right now. While others were in trouble there, the demon was making fun of all of them, but mostly he insulted Lloyd, and Silpha got pissed off hearing this. Her presence was dominating that all of them stopped their fight, and that ignorant demon was still up with his insulting remarks. Even other monster were scared to move an inch, so the boss lady is ticked off and got ready for cleaning there. The demon was sure no one can kill his minions, but Silpha tells him to shut up because he stinks like a gutter. That was something, so the demon attacked her, but just in a flash Silpha had already cut down its legs even before it jumped. So the demon focuses his mana on Beowulf, and his control got loose on other monsters. Albert saw that, and told Silpha to keep injuring that guy, but Silpha was already planning to do that. Then aside from them, Gore started to teach Lloyd about transmuting his mana, and told Lloyd to shape the mana and color it, and then include a scent step by step. But Kid already did everything on a single go that even demons couldn't do, so they started to sniff that scent. While Silpha kept protecting Lloyd there, she borrowed a night sword, and she got on Cloud N holding Lloyd's enchanted sword, so the demon began to spew nonsense about Lloyd again, and Silpha became a demon herself. The Beowulf bit her whole, but she was so angry that she slashed the monster from the inside, and used a sword skill from the House of Langle to come out like a goddess. She cleared out that Beowulf and brought the rat outside with her demon-like skills. She was like the most badass waifu in that moment, and everyone knew one thing: never mess with this girl on any occasion. Then Lloyd made his mana look like Celis, and she was ready to cut down that demon with her master's sword.
And even Silpha fell to that fog. Patsu the demon was sealed off for over 100 years. So now the demon turned the tables, and Silpha took a major hit. She could barely keep her consciousness intact, and still, she made fun of the demon. Their TKO came in to help her out, but Silpha was still putting up a brave front. She wanted TKO to take Lloyd and run away somewhere safe. The demon admitted that Silpha was something because everyone fell to his evil fog. Silpha was strong enough to endure it until this moment. But TKO was a different case. She wasn't falling for his trick. So the demon realized she was using a different breathing method to prevent taking MMA in, so he wanted to make TKO into his minion as well. TKO freaked out and punched him hard in the face. She says she only has eyes for hot guys, so she doesn't want to be on his team. She made a huge chi blast to get free, but a monster got her in the end. The demon said hot guys of her kind are useless, who can't even get up while he and his kind are fit and fine. There, Patsu began to release his mana to take over TKO's body and mind, but Lloyd was freely playing in the water. He heard that PSU planned to make Silpha his slave to toy with her, and he had killed the parents of those beasts and inserted his miasma into the cubs to make them think he's their parent. But Lloyd heard all of his evil deeds, but Patsu couldn't understand why Lloyd was unfazed. But Lloyd himself doesn't know. Then Patsu realized Grim was a demon and thought Grim was protecting the kid and made that toy-type appearance, which is a disgrace to a demon. Grim had thought to give him advice, but it seems he should let him experience the same thing he had felt. Their monster attacked Lloyd, but he started to use mana transmission. He made it extra warm and kind of released the control of that demon. Grim was so proud to see Lloyd learn this spell. And there, Lloyd told the dog to throw up. TAO was now safe, and Demon Patsu still tried his luck, but Grim told him that those monsters now know what he had done to them and their parents, so they attacked Patsu from every angle. But he still beat up those beasts and stumped them brutally. Patsu threatened Lloyd, but Lloyd and Grim were like, "What kind of nonsense is he spouting?" Lloyd remembered that a demon can't die by any sort of magic, and there Patsu showed his full power because he's not giving his mana to any beast. It spoils the whole area. But Lloyd found it interesting that demons don't die, but still, there must be a limit to their intake, and Lloyd wanted to find out. Then after Lloyd released his mana, Patsu felt how screwed he was. Usually Lloyd restrains himself from ever leaking his true power, and Grim knew this fact very well, that no demons or their power could withstand Lloyd. Lloyd expressed his gratitude for being his test subject because now he could use all his spells and powers to his heart's content. He is totally terrifying, and even Pokemon knew running was the best option, or else Lloyd would put him in a cage, and he would never come out of it. Lloyd started to make barriers non-stop to catch the rat, and Patsu was still speedy enough to dodge all of it. He couldn't even get a moment to take a breath, and Lloyd could make 20 barriers at a time, but Grim could increase the numbers, so Grim got into his body, and both of the duo made a terrifying reach to get Patsu. They made a dimensional cage and trapped Patsu in it. There, Lloyd observed that many monsters look different from their natural appearance, which could only mean one thing: the Chira experiment. So Patsu lost his mind and tried to bargain, but Lloyd kept chanting his spell, and PSU was going crazy from the suspense. And there, Lloyd completed his spell and cast 240 spells per minute. Now that's a true monster, and he wanted to keep it up for 30 minutes, but just 5 minutes was enough to kill Patsu. So the theory got proven that magic works on demons, but on a large or largest scale. Patsu couldn't believe that a kid killed him, and others were getting back up, so Lloyd went off to cover everything up, and Grim gave advice to Patsu that sadistic nonsense won't make other people follow someone. Learn from Lloyd. He does take interest in the things he likes to do, and that's why other people follow him. With this, the day came to an end and everyone returned to the capital. Then the king praised Albert for beating the monster and the demon, but they had made up that Tao and Alberto had helped them defeat the monsters. So the king wanted to meet with them, but Lloyd at that time made up that Alberto had gone that way. So Tao took off behind Alberto. Well, anyway, Albert gave credit to Lloyd and asked the king to let Lloyd join in on the fight for the throne. There would be more competition, but Albert wants the best for the kingdom. That said, he still didn't plan to lose to Lloyd, but Lloyd declined this because he has only one interest, which is magic research. He had brought back the wolf bear he met in the forest as it followed them, but Grim got jealous and became fluffy for attention as well. There, Sylpha came in to spend her time with Lloyd, and the king's son has an interesting future ahead of him. After that, Lloyd brought a bear wolf monster back as it seemed to get attached to him. But there was a problem with it. Shiru does everything Lloyd commands it to do, but Shiru can't take difficult commands like rolling 3 times or something like that. So Lloyd wants to know how to communicate with the wolf. Sylpha and Lloyd were thinking about who the monster expert could be, and only one name came to mind. The 6th princess, Elise. She's an animal lover, and she loves Lloyd way too much, to the point of kissing him. I think I hear the FBI knocking on the door for this. Her maid, Eris, scolds Elise for doing this, but she says she can't help it because Lloyd is so cute. She recognizes at first glance that Lloyd brought a bear wolf, and Sylpha was unsure she could help them at all. Lloyd wanted to see one of her monsters, and Elise said there was one right behind them. Both Sylpha and Lloyd never sensed it coming, and later they realized it's a high-tier monster. But Lloyd never saw her giving any commands, and it still took Sylpha's hairband, which means Elise must have given a complex order. So he wants to learn it too. Elise agreed to teach him to communicate with animals, and the secret to that is love. She loves them, and they love her. So Eris thinks it's not clear if she's a genius or an animal attractor. Elise said anyone can do it with the power of love and sends her pet to them with her feelings. They got Sylpha and Eris. Sylpha thought there was nothing to learn here, but Lloyd wanted to learn it badly. Sylpha thought Lloyd was taking interest in love and imagined Lloyd hugging her and showing his love for her, but that was still too early for the kid. Lloyd was grasping that the way Elise was commanding the animals was that she uses mana to send her orders directly from the brain. She doesn't know it, but she connects with animals subconsciously. So Lloyd should also share a mental image with Shiru like Elise. He tried it out on Shiru, and Shiru started to do exactly as Lloyd commanded. That's a job well done, and Eris was impressed that Lloyd started to imitate Elise in a way, but Elise does not share the same thought. She thinks love is the main ingredient to controlling animals, and Lloyd agreed with her. Love is important, and that's how she gained her power, because they need empathy to share their mind, and love is important. Lloyd's cuteness strikes 3 arrows in 3 maidens, and they jump onto him to love him. But that love turns into a mess because Elise was still connected with the animals. Yet thanks to that, Lloyd learned to control the animals. Now Sylpha tells him about his training session, but Albert comes and wants to take Lloyd with him for today. Lloyd was on Albert's side, and he brought a visitor, the 4th prince, Dean. They went over to a secluded smithy, and Dean came over after hearing that Lloyd could enchant a weapon, but he couldn't believe it unless he saw it with his own eyes. Dean is a smith and traveled to Baron, a nation known for smithing. He was only 10 years old, so he's used to enchanted weapons. So Lloyd started to do this job, and Dean still couldn't believe that Lloyd could enchant a spellbound sword, but Lloyd did his job instantly, and Dean lost his mind. Even an amateur could tell that Lloyd had made one heck of an enchanted sword with many layers of enchantment. Dean realized he was wrong, and now he wants Lloyd's help to achieve his dream. He wants to make the ultimate magic sword, and the way to create this one was different. They enchant the metal while forging at the same time, and it takes an enchanter and smith's joint effort to make it. He dreamed that everyone could use magic while wielding his magic sword. So Lloyd was on board to make it with him because it's a unique and never before heard of method. Lloyd asked about the elements to use in the sword, and Dean said he wanted a fire sword. A magic sword could hold 2 enchantments, and Lloyd prepared it instantly. He tried to apply it, but it broke off. He thought it was too little and should be made into 4 parts, so they tried it out again and failed again and again. Even Sylpha dropped in to help out, and Lloyd was confused as to why it wasn't working while he did the same with Albert's magic sword. So Grim saw him in trouble and checked out the mana essence, where Dean himself said he brought the cheap mana essence, and this was the reason for failure. It barely had any H-hide. So Sylpha suggested hitting the dungeon to find a monster core to make it. She already took permission from the king to go there, and they hit the guild. They came over to register, and Sylpha said it was fine to write their real information for registration. Then Lloyd had to go through a magic test, but if he did, it would surely blast the testing crystal and expose his power. So he compressed his magic power to a dangerous point of 1%, and their magic crystal showed he's at E rank at best, and others started laughing at him. But his magic is at A rank. Their receptionist thought Lloyd was the most promising adventurer after Silver Blader, and no one liked it that she compared the kid with Silver Blader. Her reputation is something that even these goons admire. But Silpha wanted to go to the dungeon, but they needed a bank adventurer at least. So those goons started hitting on Silpha, and she showed them their place. Their receptionist told them she's the Silver Blader herself, but sadly after re-registration, her rank dropped 2 levels to gas rank. So Tao came in to lend them a hand. Silpha didn't care and started to leave, but Tao stopped them. Silpha remembered she flew off to find her lover boy, but Tao says she searched everywhere, even the unknown monster area, and never found him. So she wants to have tea time with Albert, at least in exchange for this help. She was too hungry for a boyfriend. But anyway, they hit the dungeon, beat the monsters, and stole the core of the dungeon. Verdian learns that war is coming up, so he wanted them to wait a bit until he finished the sword, but they can't wait as the situation is urgent. And their Lloyd comes in with the core, and they finally made their first complete product. They tested it out, and the sword turned out to be overkill. So Lloyd thought of holding back with other works, and after completing many other swords, he wanted to have a good night's sleep.
Later that night, someone infiltrates the castle, even slipping past his monster pet's detection. Lloyd comes out to confront the intruder and creates a shield to prevent her from escaping. However, she throws off her cover, and poison begins to radiate from her body. Lloyd tries to purify it but fails, realizing that she is using mana transfusion to control the poison, a rare innate talent. Her name is Ren, and she has been radiating poison since birth. She uses this ability to break the shield and tells Lloyd he won't die from just a little poison before running off. Grim then arrives, worried for Lloyd, but he is using healing breathing to heal himself. If he could move, he could have stopped her, but Lloyd plans to let her lead him to her hideout. Silpha had told him at the guild that there is a group known as the Assassin Guild, famous for taking shady tasks. They have 6 members, all with bounties on their heads, but they are quite skilled at hiding, and each of them has special abilities. Lloyd tracks Ren as she moves and follows her. Silpha arrives after he has left. Meanwhile, Ren meets her partners and informs them that the kingdom is making magic swords in large numbers. When asked why she didn't kill the one who caught her, Ren explains that it was just a kid, but she at least brought back information. The big guy reminds Ren not to behave like Jade, who is long gone. At this point, Lloyd is found by Talia, and Ren can't believe he is still moving. The big guy realizes that the kid is the 7th prince, and rumors say the 7th prince acts weak, but is actually powerful. Now everyone prepares to take him down. Lloyd lowers his barrier to get a sample of their power. He easily fends off an attack from a martial arts guy whose special ability makes him flexible as rubber. He is known as the Rubber Blighted. However, someone sneaks behind Lloyd and immobilizes him with words. His name is Crow, and his words contain mana, making him the Curse Blighted. Lloyd dodges a punch from the big guy, but his power makes his body sticky with mana. Even so, Lloyd manages to free himself, and then Talia, the big sister, takes the opportunity to attack. Her swings are futile, so she stabs herself, causing the injury to be reflected onto Lloyd as well. Talia has the ability to share her damages with whoever she lays her eyes on, which makes the fight even more exciting. However, Lloyd's silence and calm demeanor make Talia think he's afraid. Lloyd heals himself, which also heals Talia, and then he enhances his clothes, turning them into a blade while copying Silpha's swordsmanship techniques. Gallo, one of the enemies, recognizes the moves as those of the Silver Blader. Lloyd charges head-on, and they feel fear instantly. They try to escape, but Lloyd captures the Rubber Blighted. Gallo and Crow then surround him, but Lloyd pulls back, and Gallo takes the cursed words, being thrown back with Talia. Lloyd then captures Crow. Meanwhile, Talia's clothes get stuck to Gallo, tearing off because Gallo didn't notice her. Despite their powers, Lloyd is interested in feeling pain, even enjoying getting injured as he hits her hard. Eventually, only Ren remains after Lloyd defeats Gallo. Lloyd calls for a fight with Ren, but Gallo stops him, explaining that Ren cannot control her power, and if she fights, everyone could be poisoned. Everyone there has no control over their powers, making them outcasts. Hearing this, Lloyd slaps the back of Gallo, and Ren thinks Lloyd has injured him badly. However, Lloyd actually helps him. enabling Gallo to control his mana. Lloyd then engraves a mark on everyone, allowing them to use their powers freely without losing control. Crow can now speak, and Talia can now see someone without hurting them. Ren also stops leaking poison, though she doesn't admit she's happy. Talia gives Lloyd one of Ren's clothes as a token of gratitude, which Ren doesn't like, but Talia insists they owe him everything. Ren still thinks Lloyd is an enemy because he snuck into their hideout and is making weapons of war. Grimm tells her that Lloyd made those weapons for fun, not for war. But Ren finds it suspicious that a normal prince would make weapons and sneak into an assassin's hideout. It's also abnormal for a goat to fly, which Gallo considers an insult. Gallo then wants to explain their past to Lloyd, and the others have no objections. However, Lloyd isn't interested in their past, but in their leader's teleportation powers. Their leader, Jade, randomly teleports because he can't control his own powers. He had returned from the desert and announced his plan to create an assassin guild to take on shady jobs, leaving a coin behind to let others know of their existence. This way, one day, they wouldn't have to hide anymore. Then, Jade randomly teleported away again. This is how the Assassin Guild was formed. Later, they receive news that the Lord of Lest is preparing for war, and a message arrives. Some time passes, and Silpha tracks Lloyd to where he left a message on the wall. She shows the message to Albert, which states that Lloyd is going off to meet the Lord of Lest with the Assassin Guild. It might seem that they kidnapped Lloyd, so Jen tells Albert that he can't start a war based on this situation. Albert, however, thinks they should find a peaceful way to deal with Lest. But when Silpha shows Lloyd sticky clothes, Albert and Silpha jump to the conclusion that something perverted must have happened to Lloyd, prompting them to consider war. Meanwhile, Lloyd is heading to the Lord's territory, and that's where our episode 7 comes to an end. If you haven't watched the previous episodes of this anime, the playlist link is in the description where you can watch all the episodes to understand the full story. Until then, take care. I hope this revision meets your expectations.